This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
So let's bring him on, Keith Pompey. Pompey on Sixers.
What's up, man? How you doing?
How you doing, my friend? You feeling good?
Yeah, I really love that U thing in the back you have.
The what?
The U, Miami. The University of Miami, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I got.
they used to be the team back in the day, huh?
I'm a South Florida guy. It's a South Florida show, so
I hear you.
everything back there is South Florida, except for the Eiffel Tower. I got that when I went with the wife to Paris for our 25th wedding anniversary.
Oh well, yeah, you got to get that. You have
so I bought it. I go, this will look badass in the studio.
Yeah, it does. It does. Oh yeah, it does. And plus, the wife loves it too. Like that's representing us.
Right. Exactly. So I can't. I'm going to lose every time, as you know, when you're married, you're going to lose every time. But every once in a while, you're going to hit one out of the park, and and then that'll give her a smile every time she walks in here.
Exactly.
So I don't know if you gave Heat fans a smile, a smirk. Were they mad? I'm not sure because it's interesting, Keith, because you talk about the Jimmy Butler move, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Heat fans are kind of torn. I'm the Heat fan that says time to move on.
Okay.
Because the run has been more than phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus Christ, 3 Eastern Conference Finals, 2 NBA Finals in 5 years under Jimmy. You couldn't ask for more. But the one thing why I'm the guy that says you need to move on, it's because Riley failed, unfortunately. And when he made this trade 5 years ago, I said this trade will only end up being, complete if you're able to trade for that other star.
Mm-hmm.
And see, I'm the guy, I love Bam, but I don't look at him as a franchise player, as a star, because to me in this league, not the 90s, not the 80s, but in the 90s, he would be a star. But now that points are, 120, to me, stars in this league have to be able to impose their offensive will on people. And that's the one thing that has never happened for Bam. He's a terrific player, an all-around terrific player, but he will not take the ball and say, I'm going to score and I'm going to take over. It's not who he is. I don't know if it's such a nice DNA in him or whatever, but they never got that other dog next to Jimmy. And you're at a point now where he doesn't have much gas left in the tank. Sixers have that other stud. Actually, they have 2 of them in Embiid and Maxey, because Maxey has turned into what I don't think Bam is. Maxey can impose his offensive will on people and change the game. So for me, it makes a lot of sense. Miami, notice, Keith, every time they try to trade for somebody, they fail. Why? They have no capital. So you have a couple of young pieces. Make this trade if you can with the Sixers and go amass that capital so you can kind of reset the team and maybe build around Jovic and build around Jaquez and Bam and that kind of stuff. I think you need to go in another direction. Whereas if you're the Sixers, it makes sense for you to make this deal because this is kind of the guy you need. You need that last SOB to put you over the top. And they probably should have kept him over the last what's the name of the kid that they gave the money to instead?
Tobias, probably
should have kept him over Tobias, and we might be talking about the Sixers already, winning a title already at this point. So that's where I'm at. There are Heat fans that say, "Oh no, hang on and try," but I'm the guy that says it's time to move on because Riley can't find that other star, and he doesn't have the ammunition to get that other star.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. It's funny because, after I wrote that story, there was a friend of mine who's a reporter in LA, and he was saying, I've been calling for this for a while. He feels like that, if they could work it out, he thinks the best thing for Miami would be a 3-team trade where they can get these assets, or they can give the assets to another team and probably get a guy like Donovan Mitchell, who's a younger player, you know what I mean, and would be would be happy to, like, who doesn't want to go to South Florida, right? But would be happy to go there. And then, basically, I don't know if he has that. I mean, I know he's a tough-minded guy. I don't know if he has that DNA that Jimmy has, to that level. But at the same time, he's a younger guy, a wing, who can impose his will on teams and score and will possibly be a great fit. But yeah, you're right, man. It's one of those things where I think people are going to be torn because of the years. But when you look at the Sixers, they are a desperate team, and they should have never traded Jimmy in the first place. And he's a guy who will get the utmost respect, and everybody loves him. So yeah, it would be a great deal, a great trade for both teams. I think if Miami could get a player who they think that can step in and a younger guy.
And here's the part that I don't I know your story's correct,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't understand their thinking on this one.
Who, the
And
Sixers?
yeah, the Sixers.
Oh,
and tell me if you agree or not. Paul George is your first option. I'm sorry, dude. I want a son of a bitch.
yeah.
And Jimmy is a son of a bitch.
Yeah,
And
I didn't mean to cut you
Paul
off.
has
Sorry.
not proven that to me yet. He hasn't proven it to me, whereas I've watched Jimmy take a bunch of role players, bro, to the NBA Finals, to the Eastern Conference Finals. There is no other star next to him. There are some good players, but no stars. I've never seen Paul George do anything like what Jimmy has done, not this year, but the prior 4 years to this. If I'm the Sixers, I don't give a shit about Paul George. I want Jimmy Butler if I'm the Sixers, because that's the DNA I'm missing. I'm missing that mofo. I'm missing that guy in that locker room that's really going to stir it up. And I that's the part I don't understand the thinking. Can you walk me through it?
Yeah, it's easy because when you look at Jimmy, you look at Jimmy, and a lot of it is predicated on what Pat Riley wants to do, right? So if Pat Riley wants to give him that money, the extension, then everything's good. But if he doesn't want to give him that money, he doesn't want to give him an extension, Pat Riley is the type of guy that's not really going to be swayed by how he thinks you feel right now, right? So it's one of those. But whereas Paul George is just a matter of, look, if they offered you 3 years X amount, right? But we're going to give you 4 years, $212 million, right? What do you want to do? So it's an easier path. You know what I mean? The thing with Jimmy is just that, let's face it, it's South Florida. Jimmy loves it in South Florida. How many dudes do you know from Texas who went to school in Milwaukee and lived in Minnesota and Chicago, and now all of a sudden it's like, y'all want me to go back to Philly where I got to pay taxes? So it's kind of like, you know what I'm saying? It's a tougher get than where a Paul George is kind of like, you know what? All I got to do is just turn down this money. And next thing you know, the Sixers are going to pay me 4 years, $212 million. And so then when you look at it,
hometown stuff doesn't matter to Paul George anymore.
I mean, it does. And see, that's the thing. And there are people who are like, that's why I think the Sixers have so many options, because you don't know what's going to happen, right? Right now you have the Clippers who are saying, what about that hometown? What about the hometown discount? You're from Southern California. You come to Philadelphia. I'm a Philadelphian. We're rude, right? You come to Philly, they're going to be rude. If you guys are down 15 at halftime, they're going to boo you. They're going to tell you you're overpaid. They're not going to want you. They're going to tell you you suck, everything, right? So that's what the question is. People are saying, is he really willing to give that up to come to Philadelphia? I mean, I'm going to give you a prime example. There's a guy from Orlando on the team.
And by the way, I don't think he's cut from that cloth where.
Nah, he's not. It's tough, dude. I'm telling you. It's tough.
Yeah. Now,
it's tough.
Jimmy can take that. And
Jimmy can take it. Jimmy can. And see, the fact of the matter is that, Jimmy, all that grit, and you said the tough SOB and everything. Now, you got certain people saying Jimmy's about to be 35, his injury history, the whole nine. Why are you going to do it? But while he was here, it was one of those things where they looked at the alpha dog. They looked at how he stepped up in the playoffs. They looked at how it got to a point where, people forget they moved Ben Simmons off the ball, and Ben Simmons was playing power forward in the playoffs because Jimmy was the better ball handler. He was more clutch. He was the point guard in the playoffs. So people look at that, and Jimmy is just a tough dude. But I'm going to just tell you how these fans are in Philly. There was a guy last year by the name of, he's still with the team, his name is Paul Reed. Yeah. So Paul Reed got a $23 million deal contract over 3 years from the Utah Jazz. They were pissed off at the organization if they you better match it, you better match it, you better match it. They matched it. Paul Reed, they loved him. They call him from the mud, B-ball Paul. He struggled in the playoffs. Everyone wants him out of Philly. They get him out of here. He sucks. He's trash. But a year ago, they were about to kill Daryl Morey for not if he didn't bring him back. So that's just how it is, and that's what people have to deal with. But Jimmy was the only one when he was here, and the Sixers sucked and they got booed. He was like, "We deserved it." I'm surprised they weren't harder on us. So the people here love him. And that's the thing. But the only question is, some people are wondering, about to be 35, or do you want to invest all that money in that guy?
Yeah. And that's a legitimate one. And then here's the other thing that I can talk about and ask you. The Sixers also have to know that they've got some leverage in this because, while, they want Jimmy and they need him, but there isn't a line for Jimmy. There aren't going to be very few teams can take Jimmy's salary and Jimmy's character on.
Oh, yeah.
That he just does not fit in 95% of the organizations in the NBA. So the Sixers will practically have no competition for Jimmy Butler. So they're not really going to be competing pretty much with anyone for his services. So I wonder how that affects also, this situation, because that kind of gives them a little bit of leverage here.
Yeah, it does. It does. But I also think that they need to get this deal done. If they want to do it, they got to do it now. And the reason being is because, yes, you do have a lot of cap space. You do have stuff available, but you're about to give Maxey a max deal, right? So what's going to happen is Jimmy, he wants to get paid. So I don't see Jimmy saying, all right, well, I'm going to come here on a discount next year. So it's in everyone's best interest, in Jimmy's best interest, in the Sixers' best interest to get it done now. And here's another thing, a guy who they also want to go with, they also want to bring back, is one of Jimmy's best friends. He has two of them on the team. Joel Embiid, of course, is one of his best friends. And the other one is Kyle Lowry, a guy who was there in Miami. Now, Kyle's not going to be the star, but he's going to be that veteran type of mentor guy for Tyrese Maxey. So if you have him and you got Jimmy and you have Joel, Jimmy's going to be in paradise. You know what I mean? Because he's back there. And I'll be honest with you, the Sixers realized that they made a drastic mistake by letting them go. It really wasn't for Tobias Harris, as everybody kept saying. What it was is it was to a point, I think Jimmy's presence was intimidating to a lot of people. It also stunted the growth of Ben Simmons because Jimmy was the better guy with the ball in his hands, and it took stuff away. But Ben was younger. They wanted to give Ben that contract, so they gave it to him, and then they kept Tobias. But believe me, it was more to do with Ben Simmons than it was Tobias Harris.
Keith Pompey joining us, of course, who covers the Sixers on a daily basis. You can follow him on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers. So, Keith, if I ask you what happens here, but what do you? Because I believe that whatever Pat Riley said, he said just to say it in the press conference. I think they're willing to part ways now with Jimmy, and one of the things I think that they've been running into is that they don't have ammunition. And so, people are talking about Donovan Mitchell. Dude, you have no shot of trading for Donovan Mitchell right now because you don't have the ammo to get him. So you're going to need to kind of reset this whole thing. I think they're going to be willing to part ways with him. Question is, what do the Sixers want to do? Keith, you've been around them forever, man. Who ends up in Philadelphia? Because Morey's going to make a move. He's going to shake things up one way or another. So it's either Paul George or Butler or door number 3, which I have no idea what it would be.
I mean, you know what? I think a lot of it is great. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with, well, how does Jimmy respond within the next couple weeks, right? If he becomes a malcontent, and how does Pat Riley deal with it? Because I think that, they would love to have Jimmy Butler. He will fit in nicely. They know he will. But I think that, I hate to say it, it has to do with Pat Riley. Now, if they can get Cleveland involved, and if Cleveland wants those draft picks, for him, I think that would be perfect. But I think that the Sixers, they would love to have him, but a lot of things has to go right. You know what I mean? Now, more than I do on how Pat is, but I think that if Pat tries to be tough and act like he doesn't want to give him up, then it could be tough for them. And I think the Miami Heat could have problems next year. But if he wants to give them up, then I think that, I think Jimmy could catapult to be the one guy because he's already been in Philadelphia. They missed him. I mean, they miss him. They know that him and Joel gets along. They know that he gets the best out of Joel. He respects Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey respects him. And I feel like it would just be a perfect fit for him. Even though, now let's get it real. Like, they're going to have a lot of games where they got DMPs, though. I'm going to tell you that in the regular season. But then in the playoffs, I think that he brings that toughness that they want, and they're going to go hard. They just really are. But again, I think it's all up to Pat Riley, man. I really do. I think it's up to him what he wants. But the Sixers, they have 5 they're going to, on draft night, they're going to have 5 first-round draft picks. They give and multiple pick swaps. They also have close to $65 million available in cap space, right? They don't have anyone on the roster that they want, but at the same time, you can get a third team involved, like we just stated, and then you can try to get what you want with that. Use those draft picks to get what you want.
All right, before I let you go, what was the watershed moment? What was the thing that made Maxey a monster?
You know what? It's crazy. The thing that really made him a monster, well, I mean, you kind of knew a couple years ago that he was going to be this guy when at COVID, and he had 30-something points against Denver at home. He was a rookie, and he had 30-something points. But I think the biggest thing that happened to him was when Jimmy Butler said he refused to – I'm not Jimmy Butler. When James Harden said he refused to play. And then Maxey had to have the ball in his hands. And then all of a sudden, he was forced to be more aggressive. He was forced to look for his own shot and take a leadership role. And he just took off because no one expected him to be this good. Now, he did, but no one outside of him, not even the coaching staff, expected that. But what he did is he took off, and he had 30 points that first game against the Milwaukee Bucks. He was just abusing Dame Lillard. And that's when you were like, wow. And then it's funny because the next day or 2 days later is when they traded James Harden to the Clippers. Like, they knew exactly what they had at that point.
That kid's an absolute dog. All right, you can catch Keith's work there at Philadelphia Inquirer. He's the Pro Hoops Writer VP. Follow him on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers. Keith, thank you for taking some time and joining us and dropping the knowledge, man. Should be a very interesting offseason for the Sixers and the Heat, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed being on the show, man.
Much love, my man. Appreciate you.
Peace.
You got it. There you go, Keith Pompey. Pompey on the Sixers. Oh, man. I am hoping that this trade happens. That's all I can tell you. I am hoping that this trade happens. It is time to make that move.